The giant screen in the Galactic Council chamber showed a small blue planet. 300 alien leaders from different worlds stared at it. The planet looked peaceful from far away. Nobody in the vast chamber spoke. The silence grew heavy. Council, Chair Valara stood up. Her blue skin shimmered under the lights. She had led the council for 200 years. Never before had she felt so worried. "Fellow council members," she said, her voice clear but tense. "We have a problem. 3 days ago, our diplomatic ship returned from the planet called Earth. The humans have rejected our offer of friendship. They have rejected all contact." Voices rose across the chamber. Some aliens shouted. Others made clicking sounds of distress. A few banged their appendages on their desks. Ambassador Zorlax pushed through the crowd. He had led the mission to Earth. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress among his people. "Please," he said, "let me explain what happened." The room grew quiet. Everyone wanted to hear. "We followed standard first contact protocol. We sent signals for 30 days before approaching their planet. We used universal math patterns to show peaceful intent. We positioned our ship in full view of their orbital stations. Then we waited." Zorlax paused. His voice dropped lower. "For 3 days, they sent no reply. Then a single message came through. 1 word. No. We tried again, thinking, perhaps they misunderstood. We sent visual greetings, cultural offerings. Each time the same response. No. When we attempted to move closer, they positioned military vessels in our path. A council member from the gas giant systems raised a tentacle. Did they show aggression? Did they threaten? No, Zorlax replied. They simply blocked our path. Their weapons remained inactive, but their message was clear. Come no closer. Across the solar system on the blue planet, Commander Susan Rogers stood at the window of Lunar Base Armstrong. Through the thick glass, she could see Earth hanging in the blackness, beautiful, fragile, home. In her hand, she held a tablet showing the alien ship leaving orbit. The first visitors from another world, now heading away, because humanity had told them to go. "Commander?" A voice came from behind her. Lieutenant Carl Dawson stood at attention. "General Parker wants to speak with you." Susan nodded and followed him to the communications room. On the large screen, General Parker's face appeared. He looked tired. "Rogers, good work maintaining the perimeter. The aliens are leaving the system. Tracking shows they're heading back toward Proxima Centauri." "Yes, sir. The United Earth Defense Fleet is standing down to condition yellow." Susan paused. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Go ahead. Are we sure this is the right call? Turning them away without even hearing what they have to say?" General Parker sighed. "The Solitude Protocol was unanimously approved by all Earth nations. It's based on centuries of human history. When technologically advanced societies meet less advanced ones, the less advanced society almost always suffers, even with good intentions. But we're not primitive, sir. We have faster-than-light ships now. We've colonized Mars and the moons of Jupiter. To them, we might as well be using stone tools, Rogers. Their ship moved in ways our science can't explain. Their energy readings were off the charts. We need time. Time to develop, to strengthen, to be ready to meet them as equals, not as pets or projects or specimens." Susan looked back toward the window where Earth hung in the darkness. "I understand the reasoning, sir. I just wonder if they'll come back, and if they'll be friendly when they do. That's why we're here, Commander. To make sure we're ready, either way." Back at Proxima Station, the Galactic Council meeting had turned into chaos. The Volrathi delegation was demanding immediate military action. "This behavior is unprecedented." The Volrathi speaker's voice boomed across the chamber. His red scales flared with anger. "No species has ever rejected Council contact. It can only mean they plan aggression." Ambassador Zorlax tried to restore calm. "We don't know their reasons. Their technology is still developing. Perhaps they fear what they don't understand." From her raised platform, Chair Valara called for order. "We will not act rashly. High intelligence analyst Zorn will lead a study. of human communications and behavior. We will learn more before deciding our next steps. Zorn stepped forward. The small gray alien had 12 fingers on each hand, perfect for operating the complex council databases. We have been monitoring Earth broadcasts for years. Their entertainment shows constant conflict. Their news reports war and violence. Their history is an endless cycle of battles. They evolved on a Class 9 death world with extreme weather, natural disasters, and apex predators. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Class 9 worlds were rare. Species from such harsh environments developed unusual traits: resilience, aggression, creativity in the face of danger. Most concerning, Zorn continued, is their rate of technological development. From basic flight to space travel in less than a century. From space travel to faster than light in just 70 years. No other known species has advanced so quickly. The chamber grew silent as the implications sank in. Chair Valara spoke softly, but her words carried. If they continue at this pace, and if their aggressive tendencies remain unchecked, how long before they become a threat to council space? No one answered. No one needed to. We will establish observation platforms at the edge of their system, she decided. No direct contact, but constant monitoring. The safety protocol requires it. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Zorlax approached Valara privately. Chair, I believe there's more to the humans than fear and violence. Their rejection might come from caution, not hostility. I hope you're right, Zorlax. But the Council has maintained peace for 12,000 years by being careful. We must understand this new species before we decide their place in our galaxy. On Earth, in the underground levels of the Pentagon, Alan Wilson faced the assembled world leaders on a screen. As Secretary General of the United Nations, it fell to him to manage the aftermath of first contact. The alien vessel has left our system, he reported. The Solitude Protocol worked, but we must prepare for their return. They will come back, and next time, they may not take no for an answer. The President of the African Union leaned forward. How much time have we bought ourselves? Impossible to say. Weeks, months, years. Our scientists are already studying the data from their ship. Every bit of information helps us close the technology gap. And if they return before we're ready? Asked the European Premier. Alan Wilson looked at each face on the screen. Then we stand together. That's why we created the United Earth Defense Fleet. That's why we put aside our old conflicts. For the first time in human history, we face something bigger than our divisions. We must be ready. As night fell over Washington, D.C., Alan stood at his office window. Somewhere up there, beyond the stars, decisions were being made about humanity's future. He hoped they had made the right choice in turning the aliens away. Only time would tell. 3 months passed since the alien ship left Earth's orbit. On Proxima Station, Chief Intelligence Analyst Zorn worked without rest. The small gray alien's 12 fingers moved rapidly across the control panels as he studied human broadcasts, communications, and cultural artifacts. Show me the human military broadcasts again, Zorn said to his assistant. The screens lit up with images from Earth. Soldiers marching in formation, warships cutting through ocean waters, aircraft soaring in tight patterns, speeches from military, leaders about readiness and strength. Interesting, Zorn muttered. Every day more military displays. The humans seemed desperate to show their strength. What Zorn didn't know was that the broadcasts were fake. On Earth, in a secure room beneath the Pentagon, Agent Patricia Bennett watched the alien observation platforms through advanced telescopes. Her team created and broadcast the fake military displays. Are they still watching? Asked NSA Director William Frost, entering the room. Patricia nodded. Every signal we send, they collect. Operation Lighthouse Keeper is working perfectly. We're feeding them exactly what we want them to see. And what's that? Frost asked, though he already knew the answer. A species obsessed with war. Dangerous, unpredictable, best left alone. Patricia smiled. The more scared they are of us, the longer they'll stay away. William Frost looked troubled. I hope we're not overdoing it. If they decide we're too dangerous to ignore. That's why we're showing strength without direct threats, Patricia explained. We want them cautious, not provoked. Back on Proxima Station, Zorn presented his findings to the Galactic Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds. The humans continued to develop military technology at an alarming rate, Zorn reported. Their broadcasts show constant preparation for conflict. Most concerning is their rapid advancement in faster-than-light travel. They now have 12 ships capable of such travel, all armed with weapons. Ambassador, Zorlax raised a hand. But have they shown any signs of expansion beyond their system? Any aggression toward our observation platforms? No, Zorn admitted. They remain within the Sol system, but they are aware of our observers. They occasionally fly close to them, scanning but never attacking. Chair Valara looked troubled. What about their cultural broadcasts? Surely there must be more than military displays? There are, Zorn said. They create stories about contact with alien species. In 87% of these stories, the aliens are portrayed as invaders or threats. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Rigelian representative stood up. His crystalline body caught the light as he spoke. I move that we implement containment measures around the Sol system, he said. The humans are clearly dangerous. We cannot risk them bringing their aggression to Council space. Chair Valara raised her hands for silence. Containment is a serious step. It would mean establishing a military presence around their system. Exactly, the Rigelian replied. A blockade to ensure they remain isolated until we better understand their intentions. The vote was close, but the motion passed. The Council ordered 30 warships to establish a perimeter around the Sol system. No human vessels would be allowed to leave, no alien vessels to enter without Council permission. On Earth, the sudden appearance of alien warships caused worldwide panic. News networks broadcast continuous updates. Religious groups proclaimed the end times. Markets crashed as people hoarded food and supplies. In the White House Situation Room, United Nations Secretary General Alan Wilson met with world leaders and military commanders. They've surrounded us, General Parker said, pointing to the holographic display showing alien ship positions. Every exit point from our system is blocked. Are they preparing to attack? Asked the Chinese premier. Admiral Rebecca Harris, commander of the United Earth Defense Fleet, shook her head. I don't think so. Their weapons aren't activated. This looks like a containment strategy, not an invasion force. But why? Alan Wilson asked. We told them to leave us alone. We've made no aggressive moves beyond our system. Maybe that's exactly why, said Admiral Harris. We're an unknown. We rejected their contact. In their position, wouldn't we be suspicious too? The room fell silent as her words sank in. What are our options? Alan finally asked. We have 12 FTL ships against their 30, Admiral Harris said. Not good odds, but we can position our fleet to show we won't be intimidated. A defensive formation that makes it clear, cross this line, and there will be consequences. Alan ordered. But no provocative moves. No weapons activated unless they move first. As Admiral Harris left to deploy her ships, Alan turned to the assembled leaders. We need to prepare our people for possible conflict, but we also need to consider opening communication. Maybe rejecting all contact wasn't the right approach. On the edges of the solar system, a small Council science vessel moved quietly. Unlike the warships, it had no military purpose. Its captain, Dr. Elise, had a different mission. The Council's approach is wrong, she told her small crew. We won't understand humans by watching from a distance or threatening them with warships. We need direct observation. Her first officer looked nervous. We're violating the containment order. The Council will punish us. Only if they catch us, Dr. Elise replied. Set course for the human outpost on the planet they call Mars. We'll observe from close range. The small ship slipped past the blockade, using a gap in the perimeter. But as they approached Mars, sensors detected a human vessel moving to intercept. We've been spotted, the first officer said, panic in his voice. On the bridge of the Earth, ship Northern Light, Captain Henry Walsh watched the alien vessel approach. They're not part of the blockade, his tactical officer reported. Smaller ship, minimal weapons. Looks like a research vessel. Henry made a quick decision. Open a communication channel, all frequencies. Sir? The communications officer looked startled. That violates the Solitude Protocol. The protocol is already broken, Henry said, pointing to the view screen showing the alien blockade. 30 warships made sure of that. Let's see if we can talk instead of fight. On the alien vessel, Dr. Elise was shocked when the communication request came through. She accepted it immediately. The screen showed a human male. Captain Henry Walsh looked at the alien scientist with calm curiosity rather than fear. This is Captain Henry Walsh of the Earth vessel Northern Light, he said. You've entered restricted space. State your purpose. Dr. Elise hesitated only briefly. I am Dr. Elise of the Galactic Council Science Directorate. I come seeking understanding, not conflict. It was the first real conversation between human and alien. Neither knew it yet, but this exchange would change everything. Captain Henry Walsh and Dr. Elise talked for 6 hours. Their ships floated side by side in the space near Mars. At first they spoke carefully, each weighing every word. But as time passed, the conversation grew easier. So your council has existed for 12,000 years? Henry asked, amazed. Yes. We bring peace and stability to 300 worlds, Dr. Elise replied. Her translator converted her musical language to English. No major wars in all that time? Henry let out a low whistle. Earth hasn't gone 10 years without some conflict. 12,000 years of peace sounds like a dream. Then why reject our offer to join? Dr. Elise asked. Her 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that showed confusion. Why choose isolation over peace? Henry was quiet for a moment. Look at human history. When a technologically advanced society meets a less advanced one, it rarely ends well for the less advanced group, even with good intentions. On both ships, crews watched the exchange with growing interest. This was history happening before their eyes. The first real dialogue between human and alien. We just wanted time, Henry continued. Time to develop on our own terms, to meet you as equals, not as the primitive species needing guidance. Dr. Elise considered this. An interesting perspective. In Council history, no species has ever rejected first contact. It triggered ancient safety protocols. The blockade, Henry said. Yes. Many Council members fear what they don't understand. Your rejection seemed threatening. Their conversation was cut short when urgent messages reached both ships. The Council was in uproar about the unauthorized contact. Earth governments were furious about the violation of the Solitude Protocol. I must return, Dr. Elise said regretfully, but I will share what I learned with the Council. This conversation has been valuable. Same here, Henry replied. Safe journey, Doctor. As the ships parted ways, neither captain knew that their conversation had been recorded and transmitted to both Earth and the Council. The first bridge of understanding had been built. On Proxima Station, the emergency council session was chaos. Dr. Elise stood before the angry gathering, defending her actions. I did what was necessary, she insisted. We've been misinterpreting human intentions. They don't reject us out of aggression, but caution. Caution? The Volrathi representative's scales flared with anger. They broadcast military displays daily. Ambassador Zorlak stepped forward. What if those broadcasts are deliberate? What if they're showing strength because they fear us? Chair Valara raised her hands for quiet. Dr. Elise, you've violated council orders, but your information may be valuable. Tell us what you learned. As Dr. Elise shared her conversation with Captain Walsh, attitudes in the chamber slowly shifted. The humans' reasoning was unexpected but made a certain kind of sense. They study their own history, Dr. Elise explained. They see patterns when advanced cultures meet less developed ones. The less developed society often loses its identity, or worse, they fear becoming dependent on us. So their rejection was self-protection, not hostility, Zorlak said, looking vindicated. But they still pose a potential threat, the Rigelian insisted. Their rate of development is unprecedented. Their history is violent. We cannot risk them bringing that violence to council space. The debate continued for hours. In the end, the council remained divided. The blockade would stay in place while they considered this new information. On Earth, similar debates raged. The recording of Captain Walsh's conversation with Dr. Elise had leaked online. Billions watched and formed opinions. Some were angry that Walsh had violated the Solitude Protocol. Others were relieved to learn the aliens weren't planning invasion. In the White House Situation Room, United Nations Secretary General Alan Wilson faced harsh criticism. Captain Walsh should be court-martialed, the Russian president said angrily. He violated our most important protocol. Perhaps, Admiral Harris countered. He saved us from making a terrible mistake. The aliens aren't hostile. They're cautious, just like us. Alan Wilson studied the faces on the screens around him. World leaders looked back, waiting for his response. The Solitude Protocol was created based on what we knew then, he said slowly. Now we know more. Maybe it's time to reconsider our approach. You're suggesting we open communication? The Indian Prime Minister asked. Limited communication, Alan clarified. Not full diplomatic relations, just enough to prevent misunderstandings that could lead to conflict. The debate continued for days. Meanwhile, in Earth orbit, a new crisis developed. One of the alien blockade ships had moved closer to Earth. Admiral Harris ordered the defense fleet to intercept. No weapons hot, she ordered her captains. Defensive positions only. The alien vessel, commanded by a young Volrathi captain, had moved without council permission. His crew was nervous as human ships surrounded them. They're not attacking, his first officer said, surprised. They're showing restraint, the captain realized, just as the human Walsh showed with Dr. Elise. This incident was observed by both Earth and Council leadership. It reinforced Dr. Elise's message. Perhaps both sides had misjudged the other. On Earth, public opinion was shifting. Protests erupted in major cities worldwide. Some demanded maintaining isolation. Others called for opening dialogue. The debate had moved from government chambers to the streets. In New York, outside the United Nations building, two groups of protesters faced each other. One side carried signs reading, "Protect Earth, stay isolated." The other had banners saying, "We are not alone, open dialogue." Inside the building, Alan Wilson watched the crowds from his window. His aide entered with new reports. "The council has sent a message," she said. "They're proposing a neutral meeting ground, a space station at the edge of our system where representatives could meet. Not full diplomatic relations, just a place for limited communication." Alan nodded. "A compromise. Not isolation, not integration. A middle path. Will you accept?" she asked. Before he could answer, alarms blared throughout the building. On screens worldwide, emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming. "This is not a drill," the announcer said, voice tight with controlled fear. "Long-range scanners have detected an unknown phenomenon approaching both Earth and Council space. Scientists describe it as a void that consumes all matter in its path. The Galactic Council has sent urgent warnings calling it the Void Swarm. It will reach our solar system in approximately 30 days. The greatest threat either humanity or the Council had ever faced was coming, and it cared nothing for the politics of either side." Panic spread across Earth as news of the Void Swarm reached every corner of the planet. People rushed to stock supplies. Some fled to underground bunkers. Religious groups gathered to pray. Scientists worked desperately to understand the approaching threat. In an emergency session of the United Nations, Admiral Rebecca Harris presented what little they knew. "The Void Swarm isn't a single entity," she explained to the grim-faced world leaders. "It's billions of tiny machines that eat matter and make more of themselves. They consume everything in their path. Planets, ships, stars. Nothing survives." "Can we destroy them?" asked the Brazilian president. "Our weapons might kill some, but the swarm is too vast," Admiral Harris replied. "It's like trying to empty the ocean with a cup." Alan Wilson stood up. As Secretary General, all eyes turned to him. The Council has sent us their data on the swarm. They've faced it before and always retreated, giving up whole systems to save lives. But they're suggesting something different this time. He paused, knowing his next words would be controversial. They're proposing we fight together. Here, at the edge of our system. Angry voices filled the room. After weeks of blockade, trust in the aliens was low. Why should we believe them? Demanded the Australian Prime Minister. This could be a trick to get us to lower our defenses. Admiral Harris shook her head. The swarm is real. Our own deep space scanners confirm it. And the Council is genuinely afraid. They're pulling ships from all over their territory to help defend our system. But why fight here? Asked the South African leader. Why not retreat as they've done before? Alan looked at each face in the room. Because we can't retreat. We lack the ships to evacuate even a fraction of Earth's population. If we abandon our solar system, humanity becomes homeless refugees dependent on alien charity. Everything we feared from first contact would come true. The room fell silent as his words sank in. The Council knows this, he continued. They're offering us a choice, fight together or face the consequences separately. And they've shared something else. They believe our unconventional weapons technology might be effective against the swarm. On Proxima Station, a similar debate raged in the Council chamber. Chair Valara faced strong opposition to her proposal for joint defense. The humans reject our friendship, and now we should die for them? The Volrathi speaker's voice filled the chamber. We have always survived the swarm by retreating and rebuilding. Why change now? Ambassador Zorlak stepped forward. Because this time is different. The humans can't evacuate their world, and their weapon systems approach problems differently than ours. They might succeed where we have failed. What makes their weapons so special? Asked a Rigelian representative. Dr. Elise displayed scans of human ships. Their technology is less advanced but more diverse. They use gravity manipulation, dimensional phase shifting, and quantum disruption approaches. We abandoned centuries ago as inefficient, but against the swarm, efficiency may matter less than unpredictability. Chair Valara raised her hand for silence. There is another reason to stand with the humans. If we abandon them to the swarm, we prove their fears correct. That contact with us would lead to their destruction. Is that the legacy we wish for the next 12,000 years of Council history? The vote was close, but in the end the Council agreed to a joint defense. 2 days later, representatives from Earth and the Council met aboard a neutral station at the edge of the solar system. Captain Henry Walsh and Dr. Elise, whose conversation had started this unlikely alliance, were both present. Admiral Harris represented Earth's military forces. She faced Council Fleet Commander Zarn, a tall insectoid alien whose species specialized in tactical planning. The swarm will approach from this vector, Zarn said, pointing to a holographic display. We have 28 days before it reaches the outer planets. Our fleet consists of 15 FTL-capable vessels, Admiral Harris replied, all armed with our latest weapons. The Council brings 67 ships, Zarn said, but we must be honest. In 200 encounters with the swarm, we have never defeated it, only delayed it while evacuating. Then we need a new approach, Henry Walsh suggested. Not just more ships or bigger weapons. For the next week, human and alien scientists and military strategists worked together. At first, communication was difficult. Cultural barriers created misunderstandings. Technical terms didn't translate well, but slowly a plan formed. The swarm operates like a connected mind, explained Dr. Elise. Individual units communicate with nearby units, creating a network. If we could disrupt that network, like cutting off the head of a snake, a human scientist said. Exactly, Dr. Elise agreed, but we've never located a central control point. Captain Walsh studied the simulations. What if there isn't one fixed control point? What if it moves or changes? This insight led to a breakthrough. The combined team developed a theory that the swarm's coordination shifted among different nodes. If they could identify the current active node and target it specifically, they might disrupt the entire swarm. Admiral Harris approved the plan but remained realistic. This is still a long shot. We need to prepare for the worst. On Earth, preparations continued. People moved to underground shelters. Valuable cultural artifacts were hidden in deep bunkers. Every ship that could fly was loaded with supplies and prepared for possible evacuation. Alan Wilson addressed the world on a global broadcast. For the first time in human history, we face a threat greater than our own divisions. We stand together, not just as Earthlings, but alongside beings from distant stars. Whatever happens, this moment marks a new chapter for humanity. As the void swarm drew closer, the combined fleet took position at the edge of the solar system. Human ships, smaller but more maneuverable, lined up alongside the larger council vessels. On the bridge of his ship, Northern Light, Captain Henry Walsh looked at the alien vessels floating alongside. "Strange times," his first officer commented. "Strange indeed," Henry agreed. 2 months ago we told them to leave us alone. Now we're fighting side by side. Do you think we can win? Henry watched as the final ships moved into formation, the largest combined fleet in Council history, prepared to make a stand. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know this. If we lose, it won't be because we didn't try everything possible." Across the communications network, Admiral Harris's voice reached every ship. "Combined fleet, this is Admiral Harris. The swarm will enter our detection range in 20 minutes. All ships, battle stations. May fortune favor the brave." The greatest battle in human history was about to begin, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. The void swarm appeared on the edge of the solar system like a black cloud against the stars, billions of tiny machines moving as one, covering an area larger than Earth's moon. It absorbed light rather than reflected it, creating a hole in space, where stars should be. "All ships hold formation," Admiral Harris ordered. Her voice was steady despite the fear that gripped everyone who saw the swarm. "Remember the plan. Find the control node before engaging." On the bridge of the Northern Light, Captain Henry Walsh studied the sensor readings. His ship had been equipped with special detection equipment designed by the combined human and alien science team. "Scanning for coordination patterns," his science officer reported. "The swarm is still too distant for clear readings." Across the combined fleet, 67 council ships and 15 human vessels maintained their positions. Weapons were ready, but not yet firing. Finding the control node was essential. The swarm moved closer, its speed increasing. It seemed to sense the waiting fleet. "It's changing course," reported Council Fleet Commander Zarn from his flagship. "The swarm is accelerating toward us." "Hold positions," Admiral Harris repeated. "We need clean sensor readings." Tension rose on every ship as the distance closed. The swarm was now close enough that individual units could be seen. Small, metallic, shapes that reflected no light, each the size of a human finger. "We're getting readings," Henry's science officer said suddenly. "There's a concentration of communication signals in the upper quadrant of the swarm. It could be the current control node." Henry relayed this information to the fleet. "Similar. Readings were coming in from other ships. Target confirmed," Admiral Harris announced. "All ships with quantum disruptors, prepare to fire on these coordinates." 7 human ships and 3 council vessels had been equipped with the experimental weapons. They moved into position, targeting the area identified as the control node. "Fire," Admiral Harris ordered. Beams of energy, unlike anything seen before, cut through space toward the swarm. The quantum disruptors didn't destroy matter. They shifted it slightly out of phase with normal space-time. The target area of the swarm seemed to blur, like an out-of-focus image. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire swarm paused. Its movement became erratic, individual units bumping into each other. "It's working," someone shouted over the fleet-wide channel. But the victory was short-lived. After 30 seconds, the swarm reorganized. A new control node had formed in a different location. It adapted, Henry realized. "Just as we feared." "All ships, defensive formation," Admiral Harris ordered. "The swarm is approaching attack range." EO. Combined fleet shifted, creating a barrier between the swarm and the inner solar system. As the first wave of swarm units reached them, weapons fire erupted from every ship. Council vessels used energy beams that vaporized thousands of swarm units. Human ships fired gravity weapons that crushed hundreds more into useless lumps of metal. But for each unit destroyed, thousands more took its place. The battle quickly turned desperate. 3 council ships were overwhelmed, their hulls breached by countless swarm units that ate through metal and flesh alike. A human destroyer exploded as swarm units reached its engine core. "We need to try again," Henry said over the command channel. "Another disruption attack on the new control node." "Agreed," Admiral Harris replied. "But we need better coordination. The remaining disruptor ships need to fire simultaneously at exactly the right spot." Council Fleet Commander Zarn offered a solution. "The Council flagship has a synchronization system. If the human ships link with our system, we can achieve perfect timing." It was a risk. Connecting systems meant vulnerability, but there was no choice. The remaining ships with quantum disruptors formed a new attack group. Human vessels linked their firing systems with the Council flagship, creating a unified weapon platform. "New control node located," reported Dr. Elise from her science vessel. "Sending coordinates now." "All disruptor ships prepare to fire on my mark," Commander Zarn ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The combined firepower struck the new control node. Again, the swarm faltered, but this time, the disruption lasted only 15 seconds before a new node formed. "It's learning," Henry realized, "adapting faster each time." On Earth, in the command bunker beneath the Pentagon, Alan Wilson and world leaders watched the battle. Through live feeds, the situation looked grim. "Is there any way to evacuate?" the European president asked quietly. Alan shook his head. "Not enough ships, not enough time." On the Northern Light, Henry Walsh made a decision. He called Admiral Harris on a private channel. "Admiral, I have an idea. The swarm adapts to our attacks, but what if we could disrupt all potential control nodes simultaneously?" "How?" she asked. "My ship's experimental quantum disruptor can be modified to create a field effect instead of a beam. If we detonate it inside the swarm, it might disrupt enough of the network to collapse the entire thing." There was silence before she responded. "That would be a suicide mission." "I know," Henry said simply. After a moment, she replied, "Do it." Henry gathered his crew and explained the plan. He asked for volunteers to stay aboard. The ship needed only a skeleton crew to reach its target. To his pride but not surprise, every crew member volunteered. "Northern Light to all ships," Henry broadcast. "We're going in. Provide us cover fire to reach the center of the swarm." The combined fleet created a corridor of covering fire. The Northern Light accelerated directly toward the heart of the swarm. Swarm units battered the ship, eating through its outer hull. "Engine damage at 60%, reported the engineer. "We won't have enough power for a return trip." "We never planned on coming back," Henry said. "Just get us to the center." As they pushed deeper into the swarm, communications became spotty. Their last message to the fleet was simple: "Remember us." At the center of the swarm, Henry gave his final order: "Activate the disruptor field." The Northern Light erupted. In a sphere of distorted space-time, the quantum disruption spread outward, catching every swarm unit in its range. The entire swarm froze, then began to break apart, individual units drifting aimlessly through space. From the fleet's perspective, a ripple seemed to move through the swarm. Then, unit by unit, the swarm began to fall apart. Without coordination, the individual machines were harmless, unable to replicate or attack. Admiral Harris broke the stunned silence. "All ships, move in, destroy the remaining units while they're vulnerable." The combined fleet made quick work of the disabled swarm. Within hours, the threat that had consumed countless worlds was gone, but victory came at a high cost. 7 council ships and 5 human vessels had been destroyed, and the Northern Light, with Captain Henry Walsh and his brave crew, was gone. 1 month later, on the newly constructed Sol Neutral Exchange Station, representatives from Earth and the Galactic Council gathered. The station floated at the edge of the solar system, neutral ground where humans and aliens could meet as equals. Human Representative Olivia Martinez faced Ambassador Zorlax across a round table. Behind them stood Admiral Harris and Council Fleet Commander Zarn, now bonded by their shared battle. "We're not ready for full membership in your council," Olivia said. "We still need our independence, our own path. But after what we've been through together, isolation no longer makes sense." Ambassador Zorlax nodded in understanding. "The Council recognizes humanity's right to self-determination. This exchange will allow communication without integration, cooperation without dependency." "Captain Walsh would be proud," Admiral Harris said quietly. "He believed we could find a middle path." "His sacrifice saved both our peoples, Commander," Zarn replied. "His name will be honored in Council records for all time." As the formal agreement was signed, Earth and the Galactic Council took their first steps toward a new relationship. Not the immediate friendship the Council had first offered. Not the complete isolation humanity had first chosen. But something new forged in the fire of shared struggle, a path forward together yet separate, equal yet different, cautious yet hopeful,